Greetings HWE 100 students, this is your instructor James Stevens, and this week we're covering Chapter 8. We're at about the midpoint of the semester, and we are no longer going to be discussing the macronutrients, those nutrients that provide energy in the form of calories. We're going to be talking instead about the different micronutrients, of which there is roughly 40 that have been deemed to be important for human health. We're not going to be able to, in this course, discuss every single micronutrient, but we will cover the majority of them and discuss their major highlights, their important functions, and food sources in the diet. This week in Chapter 8, we're actually just going to be, it's an introductory chapter talking about micronutrients in general. And so a few things that you want to remember about micronutrients, and the prefix micro gives it away, is that they're required in relatively small quantities by the human body. And the second big thing is that they do not themselves directly supply or provide energy. And recall that energy in our class refers to that substance we know as kilocalories, or calories, which can then later get converted into the energy currency, which we call ATP. So micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, do not contain any kilocalories, hence they do not contain energy. That doesn't make them unimportant, as we'll learn about in future chapters, because they do have a strong role in the processes we know as energy metabolism. So as we get into this chapter, the first thing I want you to do, we'll do this little activity here, is I want you to think of the word vitamins, and I want you to think of the first thing that pops into your mind, into your head when you hear that word vitamins. So I'll just pause here for a moment as you ponder that question. What is the first thing you think of when you hear that word vitamins? Okay, so I'm just curious, how many of you thought of vitamin pills, vitamin supplements, vitamin tablets, anything along those lines? And the reason why I have this image up on the slide is that I think there's a strong association in our society between vitamins and pills, supplements, tablets, so on and so forth. I think many people, in my experience in teaching this class, when people hear that word vitamins, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And we lose sight of, what we lose track of is that, sure, do these pills, tablets, and capsules contain vitamins? Absolutely. They probably contain some minerals as well, possibly some other not yet deemed essential nutrients, maybe some herbs, who knows what could be. A whole host of substances could be in these pills and capsules. What we lose sight of is the fact that in our diet, we're consuming vitamins, we're consuming minerals with the choices that we make, and in fact, those choices happen to be the best sources of those essential nutrients, vitamins and minerals. So it's okay if you thought of this when you heard that word vitamins, when I asked you to think about it. What I want everyone to be thinking of, and if that was you, what I want you to be shifting your thought process to is this. What are the foods in my diet that I'm consuming day in and day out that provide these nutrients? And do I maybe need to look at improving my dietary intake of these essential nutrients, which really are the best sources? Okay, so having said that, there are many myths, fallacies, mistruths, old wives' tales that are very common pertaining to vitamins and minerals. One of the ones I hear oftentimes, or I have heard in the past when I've consulted full-time, was that if you take extra vitamin C, that will prevent you from catching a cold. Well, what we do know about vitamin C is, yes, it does have a role with immune system function, but it won't actually prevent you from catching a cold. Once you've been exposed to those germs or virus, vitamin C can help you to more quickly overcome it, But taking extra vitamin C during the cold and flu season doesn't actually prevent you from getting that cold in the first place. And we'll talk more about that in Chapter 10 on antioxidants. Another common myth I hear is that people, when they feel run down, when they feel tired, fatigued, stressed out, they like to turn to taking a B vitamin supplement with the mindset that that will help them to boost their energy levels. And of course, the energy drink market has also promoted this belief that additional B vitamins give you energy. Now remember what I said at the outset, that vitamins and minerals are micronutrients. They do not themselves contain any calories, so they do not directly supply or provide energy. They do have a role in energy metabolism, so there's a slight kind of caveat or nuance here. B vitamin supplements do not give people energy. They may, however, help with the production, or I should say maybe the conversion of those kilocalories into ATP. Now, the cautionary tale here is that most people are not deficient in B vitamins because they are amply supplied by the food that they consume and certain foods which are fortified, which we'll learn about in a forthcoming chapter. So taking additional, it's kind of like along the same lines with vitamin C. Taking additional B vitamin supplements, whether it's in a pill, capsule, tablet, or energy drink, it's not going to give most people more energy. Okay, lastly, this is a big one, which will come up again. Taking a multivitamin supplement with minerals improves your health and lowers risk for disease. A lot of people will invest in a multivitamin mineral supplement with this mindset that, okay, well, I don't eat right. The food supply is not as abundant in these nutrients. So if I just take one of these every day, then it's going to improve my health, it's going to improve my quality of life. I'll probably have lower risk for chronic disease because of this cheap form of health insurance. And really nothing could be further from the truth. There's really no definitive evidence that supports the notion that taking a multivitamin supplement improves quality of life, lowers risk for disease, or improves one's health. There is, however, abundant evidence for increasing one's intake of fruits and vegetables. And this is a picture I took of a billboard that is featured up where I live in Fort Collins off of Harmony Road, right off of the interstate. And I love this sign. It's recently been replaced by a different advertisement. But this is the message that people should be hearing and that should be preached to the American people, is that, you know what, vitamin pills and supplements, things like that, we don't really have the evidence to support many of the claims that are made for them, but we do have significant evidence that shows that when people eat more fruits and vegetables, they have a lower risk for disease, they have improved health, they have improved quality of life. All the things that the people that promote vitamins and minerals and market them wish they could say is true when people eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. So that's my little soapbox message. So moving on with micronutrients, remember that they're required in small quantities and that they don't directly supply fruits and vegetables. Of course they don't directly supply fruits and vegetables. They don't directly provide energy. So we classify micronutrients into vitamins or minerals. Both of these are important for overall health. They're involved in many different functions of the body. Vitamins are what we call the organic substances. That organic meaning they contain carbon. So when someone says a substance is organic, that doesn't mean necessarily that it's produced without pesticides, fertilizers, and chemicals. In the scientific world, what we're talking about is a carbon-containing substance. What we know also about vitamins is that there are some vitamins that we can actually make in very small, minute quantities, but do not necessarily meet all of our body's needs. And also that when you remove this substance from one's diet for a period of time, not necessarily overnight or even a couple days, but typically 10 days or longer, the removal of that substance will result in some deficiency disease, in which when the nutrient is replaced in the diet, the deficiency is then cured. So vitamin deficiencies, you've probably heard of these before. The most prominent one is the one that many people have heard of before is scurvy, which is vitamin C deficiency. Typically takes almost 3 weeks of a diet devoid entirely of vitamin C before scurvy actually sets in. So we can actually store vitamins in the body in small amounts within our tissues, and that's kind of a short-term reserve to prevent these deficiencies. Vitamins are classified as either being fat-soluble or water-soluble, and we're going to talk about these. These fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins will be discussed through the remainder of the semester, so we're not going to focus on these individual nutrients themselves this week. Some things, though, that you want to remember is that fat-soluble vitamins are stored to a greater extent than water-soluble vitamins. What that means then is that because they're stored, fat-soluble vitamins, we typically do not have an issue or concern with deficiency. The one exception would be vitamin D. Water-soluble vitamins, because they're water-soluble, tend to be more quickly excreted by the body, and because they're excreted, we're more likely to experience a deficiency. Less likely to experience toxicity with water-soluble vitamins. Now, toxicity can occur through excessive intake of vitamins. However, that's not typically a concern from food. And that's the other advantage of getting your nutrients from food. You're not likely to OD on vitamin C or any of the other vitamins for that matter. You could, however, very easily suffer some toxicity from high levels of a vitamin from a supplement source, from a pill, capsule, tablet, or maybe something like a powder like the emergency packets, which have 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. That's a very high amount. That's equivalent to 10, that amount of vitamin C is equivalent to 10 oranges. Last time I checked, there weren't very many people who were eating 10 oranges at a time. I'm going to skip on based on time to just talk about minerals here. Minerals are different than vitamins because they're inorganic. In fact, minerals are in the smallest possible form. They cannot be broken down any further. And if you were looking at a periodic table of elements, you'd probably notice that the periodic table of elements features most of these essential minerals for human health. Things like calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, iron, the list goes on and on. So these substances are inorganic. They do not contain carbon. They cannot be further broken down. The way that we categorize minerals is based on the amount. So it's not based on being water or fat soluble, but rather how much the body needs per day. A major mineral like calcium we require in quantities greater than 100 milligrams. A trace mineral, like say iron or zinc, we actually need in very small quantities, in some cases in single-digit milligram quantities. So iron, for example, the average male only needs 8 milligrams of iron. The average female only needs 8 milligrams of zinc. So we're talking about tiny, tiny amounts. It doesn't mean that because we need them in small quantities, they're unimportant, because without that adequate level of iron or zinc, we wouldn't be able to transport oxygen throughout the body. We wouldn't be able to maintain the production of certain key proteins involved in our immune system for zinc. So don't confuse the fact that they're needed in small amounts, these minerals, with them being less important. Because we know that without the ability to transport oxygen, we would have a real difficult time moving our bodies. Okay, gang, well, that's it for this lecture, this audio lecture on micronutrients, and I look forward to producing another one on these key vitamins and minerals that we'll be discussing for the remainder of this semester.